Okay, so we're talking about consecutive integer problems today. Okay, so a couple of different things that I would like to go over. Okay, what does the word consecutive mean? Does anyone remember? Not two. Consecutive means in order, okay, or in a row. That's fine. Okay, but they're in order. So today we're going to be talking about consecutive numbers. So numbers in order. Okay, so numbers in order. So if I asked you to write 3 consecutive integers. Oh, also, what are integers?
Numbers.
Integers are whole numbers. Okay? Integers are whole numbers. Okay? Whole numbers. They include positives, negatives, and 0. Okay? So integers do include positives, negatives, and 0. So if I asked you to give me an example of 3 consecutive integers. I don't want to use 1, 2, 3. I want to use them a little bit bigger. 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's go 4, 5, 6. Okay? The first one you always start with, okay, whenever we're doing consecutive integers, your first one we always say is x. Now, if I needed to get from 4 to 5, what would I add? X plus 1. Okay? After that, you would add x plus 2, so we're always counting by 1. So x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. Okay? Now, how about give me an example of 3 consecutive even integers? 2, 4, 6. Okay, that works. 2, 4, 6. Okay, they could be bigger, of course. Again, we always start with x. And then, how do you get from 2 to 4? We would add what? X plus 2, then the next one would be x plus 4, etc. Okay, give me an example of 3 consecutive even, or odd integers, excuse me. 3, 5, 7. Okay, 3, 5, 7 works. Again, we always start with x. Now, the problem here is people get really confused with, when we say odd, how do you count? How do you get from 3 to 5? We add 2, okay? You do not add an odd integer. So it's not x plus 1 and then x plus 3, okay? And that will throw people off. So make sure you remember, if it says odd or even, it says the word odd or even, we're counting by 2s. If it just says consecutive integers, we're counting by 1s. So there's 3 steps to solving. The way we solve is, the first thing you always want to do is define your integers. So we always write smaller equals x, larger equals, depending on the problem. Then we translate the word problem into an equation. So we actually write an equation. And then finally, after you've solved, we will check to see if the answers fit the problem. Yes?
Why is it x plus 2 and 4?
Because if we get, are you talking about on the evens or the odds? On the odds. So if I went from 3 to 5, what would I add? 2. If I went from 3 to 7, what would I add? Right. So we're adding even numbers even though we're getting to odds. Okay, they're all 2 away. So for example number 1, if I want you to find 2 consecutive positive integers. So I want to underline the things that are super important. So consecutive positive integers. Okay, consecutive positive integers. So that means automatically your smaller equals x. Okay, the first one's always x. Your larger, if I want consecutive positive integers, what will my next one equal? X plus what? 1. Okay, so x and x plus 1. Such that, so that's telling you about your equation, such that the square of the smaller number, so the smaller one, squared.
Step number 1 would be define the integer smaller number is x and larger is x plus 1.
Yep.
This is step 1.
Right, I'm just showing you these are the 3 steps. So step 1 we just did. There's not necessarily a line. It's just saying like smaller number equals and larger number equals. So you're not necessarily putting a line. It's just saying like fill in the blank. So we did that right here. Smaller number equals x. Larger number is x plus 1. Now we're going to write our equation. So the square of the smaller number, so x, is means right, equals, so equals 1 more than, how do I write 1 more than?
X plus 1.
1 plus, 1 more than, 1 plus, twice the larger. Twice means multiply by 2. Oops, sorry, I forgot the square. So the square of the smaller number is 1 more than, so 1 plus twice means multiply by 2, the larger number. Now we just have to work it out. So here, this is x squared. The larger number is x plus 1. I'm just plugging in. So x squared equals, now make sure, what do I do first here? Am I supposed to add these together or should I distribute? Distribute. So 1 plus 2 times x gives you 2x plus 2 times 1 is 2. So I distributed into those parentheses. Then I want to solve. So clean up your equation, combine your like terms. Gives you x squared equals 2x plus 3. How am I going to solve here? What do I want? I want everything on one side. Should I move it to the left or the right?
To the left.
To the left. We always want to move it so the biggest exponent number is positive. Okay, so here we're going to move these. So subtract 2x and subtract 3. Do that from both sides. Okay, when we subtract those, write these in descending order. So the biggest exponent number first. So x squared minus 2x. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote that. Minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Now we're back to what we started with in this unit. What do I have to do to solve? Diamond method, you have to factor, right? So what's going to multiply to negative 3 and add to negative 2? 3 and 1. Okay, should the 3, what are your signs going to be? Both plus, both minus, or one of each? One of each. And the bigger number is 3, so 3 goes with the minus, 1 goes with the plus. Then set each part equal to 0 and solve. So x plus 1 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. So we get answers of what? X equals negative 1 and x equals positive 3. Now, check these. I know, and I don't mean plug in, but I want you to check your answers to see if they make sense. So, which one of these does not make sense? The negative. And the negative doesn't make sense because we said that they were consecutive positive integers. So if your first number is 3, what's your next number? 4. Okay, 3 and 4, consecutive positive integers. There is no word even or odd there. Okay, so positive integers. Now, you could just use common sense and you could figure out if 1 is 3, the next is 4. Or if that doesn't make sense to you, you technically could plug in here. If x is 3, 3 plus 1 would give you 4. So either way, you can still get the correct answer. Okay, let's try another one. For number 2, one positive number is 6 more than another. So positive number. Okay, positive number. And another. So that means we're going to have a smaller number and a larger number. Okay, like I said, your positive or your first number always starts with x. So how do I know what the next one is? Does this say anything about even or odd? No. So what do I count by? X plus 1. So one positive number is 6 more than another. So how do I write that? I'm sorry, this is not, sorry. This is x plus 6. My bad, I'm sorry. So one positive number is 6 more than another. So one is x plus 6. Sorry about that. The sum of their squares is 68. So how do I write that? Their squares, what does it mean to sum things together? Plus the other one squared. So 1 squared plus the other one squared means equals 68. I'm going to find the numbers. So how am I going to solve this? What would I have to do? This is just x squared plus, how do I do x plus 6 squared? I have to FOIL it. You cannot distribute that exponent. You have to write it down twice. Okay, so write it down twice and then FOIL. So we get x squared plus, if I FOIL this together, that gives you, first and first gives you x squared. Outsides is plus 6x. Insides is plus 6x. Last is 36. equals 68. Now, what do I want this whole thing to equal? 0. So that means I'm going to have to subtract 68. Okay? So in your next step, when I'm combining like terms, you can also subtract the 68. So we get 2x squared plus 12x. 36 minus 68 gives me minus 32. And now we have equals 0. How can I solve from here? We don't want to guess and check. What do you always want to look for first? GCF. Okay, there is a GCF here, so it's easier to do GCF first, and then you can factor. Okay, so x squared plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. This is factorable. Okay, how does that factor? What multiplies to 16, negative 16 adds to 6? X plus 8 and x minus 2, exactly. If I break these up, I get answers of negative 8, positive 2. Which one should I throw away? The negative 8, okay, because it said positive. So that means it can't be negative. So if one of your answers is 2, what is the other one? 8, okay? Remember, I had x equals 2. If I plug back in, the other one is 8, okay? So 2 and 8. This is just a coincidence. It does not have anything to do with that was a negative 8, okay? It's just a coincidence. So you always take what you find and plug it back in for x. So your two different numbers would be 2 and 8, okay? 2 and 8. Okay, let's move on to the back of this worksheet. As soon as I get another one. Okay, if we move on to the back of this worksheet. Number 3, it says two integers are consecutive, positive, odd. Okay, consecutive, positive, odd. So automatically, what do you know about your smaller and larger? What is your first one always? X. And if I have consecutive, positive, odd, what is my next one going to be? Okay, so smaller is x, larger is x plus 2. Okay, the square of the smaller number, so that means the little one squared, is means right equals, so is equals 4 more than, that's 4 plus, 5 times the larger. So 5 times x plus 2. Now this one is asking you to find the sum of the two integers. So that means we have to find our numbers and then add them together. Okay, so if I solve, I get x squared equals, 4 plus distribute, that gives you 5x plus 10. Combine our like terms, gives us x squared equals 5x plus 14. I want everything to be equal before I can solve, so subtract 5x and subtract 14 from both sides. That'll leave us with x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. How does that factor? What multiplies to negative 14 and add to negative 5? Right, so x minus 7, x plus 2. Split these up so we get a positive 7 and a negative 2 for answers. And which one does not make sense? The negative 2 doesn't make sense because I'm looking for consecutive positive odds. So that means my two numbers would be what? 7 and 9. But I'm asking for the sum, so 7 plus 9, my actual answer here is 16. Okay, make sure you read the problems. Okay, you have to read the problems very, very carefully. Questions so far?
Why is it when you